So the presidency hasn't even officially switched over yet, and already there are attacks on our Second Amendment rights. Already 5 new federal bills are being introduced expressly targeting our fundamental right to keep and bear arms. So let's talk about these. But real quick before we jump into this video, if you believe in our fundamental right to keep and bear arms, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. I also want to give a shout out to one of the main sponsors of the channel, that being Thorson Customs. Thorson Customs does a ton to support us here on this channel and also helps support us here in the state of California. They have California compliant parts and features that you can purchase from them, and they really just help you build those California compliant AR rifle builds. So if you'd be interested in taking a look at them, I'll put a link to them down in the details section. So going into this election, a lot of us had a lot of concerns about Joe Biden becoming president and his potential stance on gun control. I mean, his whole breakdown of the gun control that he would like to introduce is atrocious. It is worse than even California's laws. A lot of it even mirrors California's laws, but a lot of us were very concerned about that. And even more so, we were concerned that the Democrats might take the House as well as the Senate. And now it seems like that is what we are going to live under for the next 4 years. And we've been validating this because even before Biden is actually becoming the president, 5 new federal bills are being introduced expressly attacking our Second Amendment rights. So I'm going to put links to all this down in the details section, but one thing I do want to note is that there's no actual text to these bills yet. We have the titles, we have the general gist of what these 5 new bills are going to be attempting to do, but once these bills actually get their text, I will update the links if they need to be updated. So first and foremost, we have HR 121, which is being introduced and is being pre-filed. And what HR 121 seeks to do is hire 200 new ATF agents for investigation and enforcement of gun violations. So although the ATF has been pretty aggressive as of late, they are going to get funding and they're going to be hiring 200 new agents expressly to going after people who are violating gun laws. Violating is a loose term because we've seen what they've done recently with Palomar 80 stuff and the pistol brace issues. So again, I would say from the looks of this, Congress is wanting to beef up the ATF so they can be way more aggressive in going after our firearms pretty much. The next one is HR 125, and what this one seeks to do is to provide for a 7-day waiting period before a semi-automatic firearm, a silencer, armor-piercing ammunition, or a large-capacity ammunition magazine may be transferred. So there's quite a bit that they're going to try to cram into this one, being HR 125. First and foremost, being all semi-automatic firearms. It's not even just, I almost said semi-automatic centerfire rifles, but it's all semi-automatic firearms. So that's going to be rifles, handguns, shotguns, anything that's semi-automatic. They're going to try to create a across-the-board 7-day waiting period across the entire U.S. Now, how might this impact states like California that have a 10-day waiting period? Well, what I would expect probably to happen is there would be some sort of language in there that says, or else as determined by a state. So if a state wanted a more burdensome waiting period, being 10 days, I guess they would probably get to keep that. But at least across the board, there would be a federal minimum that there would need to be, being a 7-day waiting period for all purchases of semi-automatic firearms. Beyond that, then they threw in silencers, which makes no sense because I don't know about you, but I don't know anybody who was able to ever get a silencer in less than 7 days. But I think they just threw this in there for optics, thinking that it looks better because, of course, silencers are really scary and deadly, and Hollywood makes them look really scary. So they decided to throw that in there, and they don't want people to get them in less than 7 days, but people weren't getting them less than 7 days anyways. The next interesting one is going to be 7-day waiting periods for the purchase of armor-piercing ammunition. Now, I'm going to be very interested to see what they define as armor-piercing ammunition in this bill, if they actually go into defining what they're going to consider to be armor-piercing ammunition. And this could be something where they could be very limited in their language, or they could be very broad. And things like this are a little bit scary because you never really know who's writing this bill, what extent of knowledge they have. And so this could be a very general term, and maybe they could target things like even hollow points and try to consider them to be armor piercing or something like that. I mean, they wouldn't be armor piercing, but I mean, we really don't know what they would try to do with this language. But again, they want 7-day waiting periods on armor piercing ammunition. And then if it wasn't enough that they were trying to do 7-day waiting periods for all semi-automatic firearms and then silencers and then ammunition, they decided to cram in large capacity magazines in this as well. So my assumption is that they're probably going to adopt some sort of language from California defining large capacity magazines as any magazine that holds more than 10 rounds. And now it seems like, at least at a federal level, they are going to want to obligate everybody waits 7 days before they take possession of those type of magazines. And so this is interesting because not only are you seeing them applying waiting periods for actual firearms, being these semi-automatic firearms, but now they're going to try to apply waiting periods to accessories, i.e. Magazines, and then also to ammunition as well. The next one being introduced is HR 127, and what this is seeking to do is to provide for the licensing of firearm and ammunition possession and the registration of firearms, and to prohibit the possession of certain ammunition. So there's kind of 3 prongs to this one. Like we saw with 125, they're going to try to cram a whole bunch of things in each one of these and try to hopefully get one of them passed. So first and foremost, in 127, they say that they are going to want some sort of licensing for the purchase of firearms and ammunition. What I see this as is this is going to be some sort of licensing permit for you to be able to purchase a firearm as well as ammunition. There's a lot of states, for example, the state of California, that requires you to have a firearm safety certificate before you can purchase a firearm. What they're going to try to do is take this nationwide, having some sort of permitting process to where you have to have this before you exercise your core Second Amendment rights and you being able to acquire a firearm. Going further than what actually California has, they are going to actually try to have you get a license to take possession of ammunition as well. This is probably going to take the form of maybe something we see similar in California, where you'll have to take a test, get some sort of payment sent to the state or sent to the federal government. Who knows, they could apply some other steps to this as well, but there's probably going to be various steps, processes, as well as fees attached to you being able to actually get one of these licenses. And ultimately, the whole goal with things like this is to make it time prohibitive as well as cost prohibitive. Ultimately, the goal of this is to make it so frustrating for people and actually make it so costly for people that many individuals across the US just won't exercise their Second Amendment rights because it is so costly and time prohibitive. The second part to this is the registration of firearms. Now, it seems very clear that they've been after something like this for a long time. They want a federal register of all individuals who are purchasing firearms as well as the firearms that they are purchasing. It's, again, something they've been after for a long time, and it seems like now with this HR 127, they're going to try to cram it in and get this applied as well so they can know who has firearms and what they actually have. On top of this, they're actually saying that they're going to try to prohibit the type of ammunition that people can have as well. This might go back to the armor-piercing ammunition. Who knows how broadly they will try to define that. So again, they want a 7-day waiting period for this type of ammunition. Maybe if they don't get that, then they will just try to outright ban individuals from having certain types of ammunition. So that's interesting as well to see what type of ammunition they're targeting and what actual language and definition they're going to apply to ammunition. So, I mean, what would be catastrophic if all of a sudden they try to say, hey, we're going to prohibit all individuals across the US from having hollow points. I don't put it past them trying to do something like that. They could be very aggressive in doing something like that. They could try to limit the scope of ammunition, but again, it could be something catastrophic. It could be something limited. We don't know right now. And when we get that text, I'm gonna be very interested to see exactly what type of ammunition they're gonna try to prohibit. And so the next one is HR 130. And what this is seeking to do is to require the safe storage of firearms and ammunition and to require the investigation of reports of improper storage of firearms or ammunition. So first, the requirement for you to safely store your firearms and ammunition. We have something like this in the state of California. So for us here in the state, it's probably not going to impact us a whole lot. But for individuals across the board in the US, your state probably doesn't require you to have these safe storage laws and cause criminal penalties if maybe your child gets a hold of it or something like that. Now, again, you should be safely storing your stuff anyways, but again, for the government to mandate how and in which way you can store your things and applying penalties to you, I don't agree with anything like that. But even more so, what's concerning about this specific one being HR 130 is this kind of red flag implications for storage, where someone could be in your house or know you have firearms and just say, hey, he's not safely storing his firearms. You should go investigate him. And then all of a sudden you have someone from the ATF or state police or your local police, whoever, coming to your house trying to investigate whether or not you are safely storing your firearms and ammunition under federal law, and then trying to apply some sort of penalty to you if you are not. And so the last one is HR 167. And what this seeks to do is to prohibit the transfer of a firearm at a gun show by a person who is not a federally licensed firearms dealer. Now, again, this is very specific to gun shows, and this is seeking to close that thing that you hear about all the time on mainstream media, being the gun show loophole. And so for those of you who don't know what the gun show loophole is, and maybe you just hear it talked about on mainstream media, essentially what it is in some states, not in the state of California, but in some states, You could go to a gun show. There are FFLs there who sell firearms, and you go through that FFL to purchase the firearm. But there are also individuals, and they might just be private individuals, who go to the gun show, want to sell their firearm, and they do a private party transfer. It's a private party to another private party. And under some state laws, you are not obligated to go through an FFL, do a background check, anything like that for the transfer of the firearm. What this would seek to do is to create a just across the board federal law where at no gun show could a private individual sell to another private individual without going through an FFL. You would have to go through an FFL, or maybe even private individuals couldn't even sell at the gun shows. It would be exclusively open to individuals who had FFLs or to gun shops or whatever. This again is something that's scary. It could be a springboard. There's a lot of really scary things in all of these bills. Some of them are very jam-packed with a lot of hot topics that have been discussed quite a bit over the years. And now it seems like we're in for a tough 4 years. They have the president, they have the House, the Senate, and already they're being pretty aggressive in pre-filing some bills. And we're hearing rumblings about within the first 100 days that Joe Biden is going to be very aggressive. And I would fully expect within the first 100 days for Biden and his administration and maybe even Congress to be very aggressive in pushing some sort of gun control bill. It could be one of these. They could really get behind one of these and try to get it passed. It could be something even worse. It could be another assault weapons ban. Who knows? But right now, I think a lot of you can kind of read the tea leaves and know that it's going to be a tough 4 years, maybe a tough 8 years. Who knows what's going to happen right now? There's a lot of societal concerns, but we're definitely going to be keeping our eyes on these 5 bills. It's not a good sign that they're already being pushed and pre-filed. But again, we'll be keeping our eyes on it. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment down below and I'll try to answer the best of my ability. Also, if you like this video and you like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell because that helps your channel analytics, helps us spread the word about the Second Amendment, and also spread the words about things like this that are going on in the US. So as always, thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars. This nation will be maintained by armed scholars.